Mexican skies. Drink some margaritas, basking in blue lights. Listen to the mariachi play at midnight. Are you with me? Are you with me?
All right, hold on 1 second. Let me just do this and do that.
Hey, everybody. Oh, it shows 6 more people.
Okay, hold on 1 second. Admit.
Hey.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, gosh, great to see you.
Happy New Year.
Hi.
Feels like we're back in COVID times again. We're all on Zoom here.
Exactly.
Great. I think a few more people are joining just this minute, so
Good.
we'll give them a second.
Sure.
Thank you all for joining.
Yeah.
Barton, so great to see you.
Yeah. How's everything?
It's great. We're enjoying being back in San Francisco. Yeah?
Yeah.
Mm.
Even with all the rain, but it's been, or maybe because of all the rain.
Oh, you guys need to come to Denver.
To Denver. Yeah, you're in Denver now. That's right. Are you happy there?
Love it.
Love it.
Just so you guys know, because I know everybody on here, the gentleman speaking is Barton. He's my personal coach. I've learned so much from him. So he just recently moved to Denver, Colorado from South Carolina, North Carolina. North Carolina,
Yeah.
All right. Well, listen, we had about 40 people sign up, but people are going to roll in late. And a lot of people wanted to just get the recording because they have other things going on with their life. But in interest of this time, we'll just get started now.
We will.
Okay. So welcome, everybody. I mean, we've got about 60 minutes. And the way we wanted to spend that time is we just thought we'd give a quick overview of our year. If you've been reading our newsletter, you already know a lot about what we've been doing, but maybe you have questions about certain things. And then we also want to just share a few quick lessons that we learned along the way. And then you know, hopefully answer any questions that you might have about your own personal plans to travel. Yeah. And we'll just go from there. We'll just leave plenty of time for Q&A. We'd love to do like a little breakout session sort of towards the end, where we can put you in little groups if there are enough people. If not, we'll just do it sort of as this group, but kind of where you would like to go and what you would like to do going forward in 2023. And we'll just we'll jump into that. And also, just so you know, just to remind myself too, I got this request a lot of times when we were on travel, so I'll just relay it here as well as I've gotten messages for this. I am very happy to offer a 30-minute complimentary coaching session for all of you regarding coaching that would sort of help you get started with your plans to travel or do something beyond your comfort zone. So would be very happy to offer that to all of you at the end of this session, and I'll send you a link with content and information on how to schedule that. Before we jump into that, I don't know if you saw in the chat, but we asked you a question, and would love it if you would just answer with 2 words. The first question is, where is a place you've gone before that you would like to return? It can be a city, it can be a country. So a place that you've been to before that you would like to return. And then the second question is, where is a place you would like to go that you've never been to before? I'll give you a few minutes to respond to that. So you got Rome and Florence, Peru, Italy, Japan. Yeah, Italy and Japan. Julian, you've never been to Japan, huh?
Nope, never.
Oh, wow. Okay, great. Yeah, Italy shows up on so many people's lists. Yeah. Yeah. Very cool. Let's see, Kathy, Israel and Spain.
Ooh.
Shannon G. Hi, Shannon. Nice to see you.
Hi,
The
guys.
Maldives, huh?
Mhm.
That's great. All right. Well, the reason we asked that question is to sort of stimulate your thinking about where you might want to go back to Hong Kong, Japan, Paris, Mexico. Oh, Holly, you've never been to Mexico. That's right, huh? Yeah, that's great.
You're crazy, huh?
Yeah, well, we talked about that, didn't we?
Yeah.
Recently? Yeah, very cool. All right. Well, we're hoping that in the next 50 minutes or so that we're together, you'll have some of your curiosity satisfied, but you'll also be a little bit inspired to go to some of the places that you've either been before and had great memories, or new places that you'd like to go. And frankly, those are the exact two questions that we asked ourselves, right? When we started planning this trip is, do we want to go to places that we've been before, or do we want to go to completely new places? And we ended up deciding that we really wanted to go to new places. But we thought that it would be a good idea to start our trip going to a place that was familiar, that we really loved. And so that's what we did. We started in Mexico.
Right. So
I'll share a screen here and just give you a quick.
1 second. Here we go. So this is a broad overview of our trip last year. As Mark said, we started in Mexico. We had been before, loved it, went back to Oaxaca and Puerto Escondido. And we had great Spanish lessons there. We had 1 month in Puerto Escondido, and we had a couple more weeks in Oaxaca City taking Spanish. Then we moved down here to Ecuador. And in Ecuador, we continued our Spanish lessons with 2 more months there. We spent a total of 3 months in Ecuador before moving down to Peru. And this is where we took a bus trip. We started in Lima, and then we took a bus all the way down south and back up north to Cusco, and got to see so many lovely cities, including Nazca, Arequipa, and Machu Picchu.
And we stopped studying Spanish after.
And yes,
I'm not on the
and we
list.
have to
We
admit.
got very burned out and exhausted. So
And
yeah,
in Peru is interesting because it's so touristy. Almost everybody spoke English, and so we really didn't even get a chance to practice with the locals.
a little bit of Hugo in the gym.
That's
right?
true.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
true. And then after Peru, we headed down to Chile. And that was a really lovely surprise for us. We had never been before. We hadn't heard much about it, except that the people were a little bit standoffish. But we found them so warm and welcoming. And so we were there, Santiago, Valparaiso, and the wine country.
Right, show that.
And then we headed back from Chile up to Colombia. And then from Colombia back to Mexico. And that's where we ended up before heading back here to San Francisco.
Yeah.
It's right here.
Yeah. Alex, can we get you to mute your microphone there?
Ah, good, okay. Your what? To mute the microphone.
Unless you want us to all hear Leslie yell at you.
Oh,
What do you want me to do now? What do you want him to do?
mute.
I have no idea.
I'm getting beaten up.
Wait a minute. What do you want us to do?
To mute.
Go on mute.
Oh, wait a minute. Hold on.
Yeah.
There he is.
All right. Yeah, what we're gonna say. Yeah, so Colombia we'd been to before. But the reason we went there is the guys that I coach were in Bogota for a conference. So it was one of the largest conferences in their particular space. And so they just said 2 weeks before, hey, why don't you come up to Bogota? And we were right in Chile. So it was easy for us to do that. And it was great going back to Bogota and Medellin. So we enjoyed that. And then we both ended up going back to Mexico.
Yep.
Before coming back to San Francisco. We've now been in San Francisco 3 weeks, almost a month.
Well, I've been back almost 2 months, so
Oh, gosh.
it's crazy.
Yeah. So that's the sort of overview on that. How do you?
Yep.
Okay. And this is a little highlight of sort of the places we stayed. We found a lot of people had a lot of questions about where we lived. So.
Right. And we just ended up in a wide variety of places. So you can see there 20 different Airbnbs, 16 hotels, 5 hostels, 3 plant medicine retreat lodges, 2 Spanish schools, two tiny houses, one on a vineyard and one up in San Jose del Pacifico in Mexico.
Yeah, way up in the mountains, very, very high in the mountains. Yeah.
A llama farm in Otavalo, a little tiny place in the hot springs in Ecuador, and a cabin in the Amazon.
And a cabin is a generous term
It
for
is.
what was a really shitty little hut. But it was fun. It was fun. Yeah, go ahead. And here's just some pictures of some of those places. The Amazon place that we stayed is right there in the center with the grass roof. But as you can tell, we stayed in a whole variety of different places. You know, our goal was to really figure out how we could contain costs and also just experience a different variety of type of living. We really liked staying at the Spanish schools because those was very community living, where you had a shared kitchen, and you shared facilities, just like the hostels we stayed in as well. You want to go to the next slide? So in this bunk bed here, Laurel and I shared that bottom bunk together. That was in Pichilimu in the surf town, and where we were doing workaway, where we were working 30 hours a week. And that was probably one of the toughest place we stayed. We shared a bathroom with 20 people. So one shower and one toilet for 20 people. And it was outside. We had to do like a 5-minute walk to up these stairs to go to the bathroom. So that was challenging for people that are getting a little older. The bus is there. We'll tell them why the bus is there.
So the bus is there because we actually did spend one night on the bus when we were traveling from, I think it was Puno up to Cusco. But this is the bus. We recommend it very highly because it takes you to as many stops as you want, and then you can stay as long as you want in each one of those stops, and then you just get on the next bus the next day. So that's why it's also considered a stay for that overnight.
And the place below the bus is where we spent a month in Ecuador up in the Andes, and that was on a llama farm, and it was spectacular. Every day we woke up and that was our view every day. We stayed in some incredibly beautiful Airbnbs all over. One of the things that we noticed, right, is that traveling today, if for any of you that have any fear or reservations about traveling, and maybe you traveled 20, 30 years ago and have dreams of when you backpacked across Europe or what have you, it's so easy to travel these days. And we can get into that when we hear your questions.
What are some of those other places in that slide? They look really cool.
Yeah, so the one on the far right, you want to tell them that?
Sure.
Upper right?
The upper right is our Spanish school in Puerto Escondido, and it had a lovely rooftop where we had our lessons.
Yeah, that was not our house. We had a room
Yeah.
in that complex.
There was one room, and then the common areas were the rooftop, and there was a outdoor kitchen downstairs, where everybody would cook at. The one on the left is the yoga room at a hostel we stayed at in Vilcabamba. And it was just gorgeous because you just looked out on the nature. And then the one down below, the center bottom, is an Airbnb, and it's in San Felipe del Agua, which was not where we were planning to go, but in the state of Oaxaca. I got COVID and needed to quarantine for 10 days before we could go anywhere. So we decided to go off into one of these suburbs outside of the city. And it was really nice.
Yeah, just to give you a little perspective, because this question comes up, the lower left, that llama farm, we stayed there a month, and we had our Spanish classes right there on the patio. The rent there for a month was $500 a month. The hostel in the far left corner was about $25 a night. And the Spanish school worked out to be about $700 a month. Want to say for our room?
That sounds right.
About $700 for a month, and we had access to that entire building, the terrace and the pool and the kitchen and everything. It was wonderful, and it was a 90-second walk to the beach. So our feet were in sand, and every morning I would go out there and swim, and it was a 2-minute walk to the surf. That was amazing.
Yeah, and then
Wow.
this one, so there's actually the one on the top left corner is the roof of that Spanish school. So it was really nice. And then the little rooms to the right of that was at the hot springs we went to in Ecuador.
And to the right of that is the tiny house in the wine. This is right in the middle of a vineyard.
Yeah. And then that was our room at the school.
Yeah.
And then on the other side of the hut from the Amazon was the view from our high rise in Quito. because we
Like this?
stayed down here
Oh, I see. I can't even see
in
it.
the
Yeah.
right.
Okay.
So-
All right, great. So.
So,
So just a few lessons learned, because this might help stimulate some questions that you might have, but you know, with Laurel and I've obviously had a lot of time to think and talk about this, but the best advice that we discovered, both in talking to all the travelers that we met, was just embrace the uncomfortable and know that you're going to be uncomfortable. I mean, hopefully you seek that out a little bit, because the truth was that our best memories were the most challenging. The toughest things that we did that were the most unpleasant were the things that we're going to remember and carry with us. Next one.
be flexible. So we each had our own ideas about where to go and what to do and how long to stay in a place. And I think we had to be flexible with each other and be willing to compromise and jump on board. And we both did that with each other's ideas, but also being flexible about what's possible. So there are places where you go and, for example, you know, a national strike happens and you can't get a plane out of the Amazon. So it's learning to be sort of expecting nothing's going to go completely smoothly and kind of have to learn how to live with that. And did you have other thoughts on that?
No,
well?
I mean, that's the thing, is it's, you know, whether you're traveling, I mean, for people that are traveling as couples, we found that we travel really, really well together, and we kind of always knew that, but we were certainly put to the test, and it definitely brought us closer, all these type of experiences. The priorities for habitats, I mean, this seems like a no-brainer, and we thought we knew this going in, but location, definitely would do more research in terms of picking an Airbnb, because, you know, you go to a big giant city like Quito or Santiago, and you don't really know what neighborhoods to pick. And we picked some that were a little bit difficult and sometimes a little dangerous and challenging. Water, you know, something in this country we take very for granted. And when we say water, we mean water pressure. You know, they might say they have water, but there might not be any pressure. They may say they have water and you find out that there's no hot water. So we stayed in Airbnbs that the kitchen didn't have hot water. So to wash dishes, we had to boil water and do that. We stayed in a number of places that didn't have hot water, where we had to take cold showers when it wasn't warm outside. And then availability. I mean, there were places like the Amazon and other places where water just simply wasn't there, which was an interesting experience too. And then the language.
Yeah, so we both had taken the year before we traveled doing italki and tried to learn some Spanish. And it was so helpful, I have to say, and fun. And then once we got where we could actually have some simple conversations with people, whether it was, you know, bartenders or taxi drivers, that we really enjoyed it. And we were able to make some really lovely connections with people. And so that's what we would like to do wherever we go. I mean, some languages are easier than others, but I am hoping to keep up. Personally, I'm hoping to keep up the Spanish.
Yeah, it was really, really important. I didn't think it was as important because I hadn't spent that much time other than China in these other countries. But the reaction from locals when you make an attempt and you've learned a bit is it really pays dividends, and we're really glad. Because I particularly, I mean, Laurel's Spanish was better than mine. I had zero Spanish when we started, but by the end I could actually have simple conversations and understand things, and it was great. Except in Chile, they speak very strangely in Chile.
Very fast.
Next one.
Be kind and patient with one another and everyone. So as a couple traveling 24/7 together in very small quarters, it's a good reminder to be patient and take a breath. And then also with all the people we met, well, they were just, I think what we found is that the people were so kind and patient with us, with our Spanish, with us not knowing local customs, with them showing us where to go, potential ways to do business in countries.
And that's true of Latin America generally. I think
Yeah.
there was a survey that said they're the happiest, friendliest group, if you want to stereotype. And we found that to be true. But the reality too is we also saw a lot of bad behavior and ugly Americans, mostly Americans, that made us kind of super sensitive to being extra kind and patient. And it's just good advice, not only when you're traveling, but just in the world, right? So that really hit home because we were so vulnerable, and everywhere we went, we were the dumbest, most illiterate, stupid people in the room for the most part, because we didn't speak the language and didn't understand the customs. So when you don't have the facility of your native language, then you need to default to other things like that. And, allow for and plan separate alone time. We kind of figured that out later in the trip. And when we started saying, hey, I'm going to go do this by myself. And it definitely was kind of dawned on me, particularly because I'm an introvert, like, wow, I should have done this earlier. I should have had more separate alone time to do different things. And so definitely when we start our next year, we're going to build that in.
We did appreciate when we were in Airbnbs where there was more than one bedroom. That was fantastic, or more than one floor, even better.
Yeah, for sure. And then exercise, we really only kind of embraced that when we got to Peru, because we were drinking and eating ourselves silly. And once we started exercising, we felt so much better. Peru was a revelation. I did some research in Cusco on gyms, right? And found this one that looked really, really great. And we went to it, and the owner of the gym is like, yeah, well, I'll train you. It's like, okay, personal training coming from San Francisco. Ooh, what's that going to cost us? And he says, well, train with me every day, 7 days a week, 1 hour each. I'll train you separately. And you're going to be here for 3 weeks. So let's just do that for 21 days solid. We're like, oh God, okay, what's that going to cost? And he said, well, $60. And we said, oh gosh, $60 a session. Is that per person? And he goes, no, it's $60 for both of you for 3 weeks. So just as a little bit of perspective, right? It was incredible. I mean, here in San Francisco, you pay $150 an hour, and we paid $60 for 42 hours of training, right? And he was incredible. He was an amazing guy, and we can tell you about him if you're curious. We talked about him in the newsletter, but exercise made us feel much better, and definitely we're going to be exercising a lot more as we go forward. So I think
that's it. So I'm going to stop share.
So we'd love to hear from you. Any questions that you have. And the only thing that we can't really address is if you say, what are the visa rules and how do you get a D7 visa to go to Portugal? We don't know those things. But anything that you want to ask us about our experience, about our trips, or anything that might be relevant to your plans, we'd love to hear. Hey, Patrick Lynn, how are you? I know you joined late, so you're kind of going, what the hell's going on? But
yeah, sorry for missing the first 6 minutes.
No worries.
It's good to see you again, though.
It's good to see you. Are you in the city or are you traveling?
So I've been doing the whole digital nomad thing for the last 2 years with my girlfriend as well. I've been back in the Bay for 3 weeks now. So I'll be hanging out with the family until we have a couple of snowboard trips coming up. But
Patrick Lynn is the prototype of what we saw when we were traveling. And it, again, I mean, as old people, the Patrick Lynns of the world did not exist when we were traveling back in the day. I mean, these are folks that make nice salaries in US dollars, and they're going all through Latin America and having an incredible experience. And Patrick and I have talked. I mean, he's been all over the world in the last year or so since COVID kind of lightened up. So yeah, great to see you, Patrick. Yeah, I'm glad you're back in the States. I hope to get to see you. And Steen, my buddy from high school, is in Venice Beach. How are you, Steen?
Doing well, man.
Good,
Welcome.
man. Good to see you. We were hoping to get down to LA. It doesn't look like it's going to happen this trip, but
anytime, we got a place for you to stay, so just let us know.
Fantastic. Good. Well, we're very, very good at couch surfing now. So as most people know, we leased our house for 3 years, so we're homeless. So we've got 2 suitcases, and that's going to be the reality for
a little while.
2 more years.
Yeah.
And then Ernie, nice to see you, brother.
Hello, Mark and Laurel. How are you both?
Hello,
We're
Ernie.
going to see you tomorrow in Monterey.
Yes, we will. Less than 24 hours. Looking forward to hosting you guys down here.
Fantastic.
Lovely,
Great.
lovely.
So questions. You can either put them in chat or you can just start speaking.
I'll go.
Hello,
Laurel,
Kathy. Kathy.
Hello, Kathy.
good to see y'all.
You too.
Say, what do you recommend for a resource to finding out what the customs are for the different locations that you're going to travel? Because I've heard that, not only ugly Americans, but sometimes Americans can be over exuberant coming into countries that may prefer us to be a little standoffish and maybe come in quietly instead of like, hey, how the hell are you? Glad to be here, and that could be off-putting while our intentions are good. How can we find that out before we go?
Google. I just read a great article that said how do foreigners identify Americans immediately? And the three that stuck out was they wear shorts. We found that even in really hot weather, Latinos don't wear shorts. It's in Mexico, Chile, no one wears shorts except Americans. Two is, you're absolutely right, they're too friendly. We end up talking to everybody. And then three, we tip.
And overtip.
We overtip, and it's considered a little bit tacky.
Yeah.
So that was surprising too.
Yeah, when I was traveling 100 years ago, I had a business book that was the customs, a physical book, customs and culture, customs from all sorts of different.
But it was Japan, right?
It was every
Yeah.
country, and there was like 5 to 10 pages on each country about the customs, whether it was appropriate to be late or, if you're in a country where it's okay, where nobody shows up on time, right? In Chile, apparently nobody shows up on time.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's still in print or not. I will go see if I can find it and see if you can get on Amazon.
There's tons of
But
stuff.
I think if you do just kind of Google something like local customs in X city or X country, you should be able to get quite a few hints. But it's a good question.
Hey, Shannon, are you in New Mexico still?
Hi, no, I came back to California in July of 2021.
Oh, did you really? Okay.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
haven't really been on Facebook or anything, so I don't.
Yeah. So it's been, but I'm in Marin.
Oh, you are great. Okay.
But I'm actually going to be moving to north of San Diego in March. Another move.
Fantastic.
I think it's a friend and I were talking, the gradual, interesting, right? That I'm on the call with you, kind of the gradual, what's the word? Trend toward maybe across the border, right? At some point. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, you've spent time in Mexico before, right?
Yeah, I think, I love hearing about your travels and your trips. I don't know that I'm ready to move abroad or to another country at this point, but I definitely feel like spending more time out of the US is going to become pretty, feels like is what's coming. It's just doesn't feel very well. Things just don't feel very good here right now, as you know.
I get you.
It must be I was wondering, like, how are your nervous systems adjusting being back to the Bay Area? Like, how does it feel differently after being gone so long? And like, what have you noticed?
I notice I can't be on Twitter too long. It's recommend that do it in small bits.
I think one of the hardest adjustments, just because of the way we've lived. I mean, we're in this. We've been really fortunate. We have friends that we had dinner with them a few weeks ago, and we're saying, they said, where are you staying? Well, we go, well, we don't really know where we're staying like in 3 days. Right now we're staying with Laurel's brother. And they said, well, we've got this condo, it's sitting empty down in South Beach, San Francisco. So why don't you just stay there? So that's where we're staying. And it's really, really nice. It's like I'm saying, it's the nicest place we've stayed in a year. And I on day 2, I go into the kitchen and Laurel is washing out a used mayonnaise jar. I'm like, what are you doing? She's like, we may need this. I said, you're absolutely right. We may need it, right? So we save foil and pieces of paper and we reuse paper plates. That's been a weird kind of thing. And drinking water out of the tap, I still don't feel good about it. It still makes me nervous. So there's a lot of cultural stuff that, just hangs over. I'm still really appreciative when there's hot water. I'm just like, still get excited about it.
We've been super, super lucky to have friends and family who've offered us places to stay, because we're being more nomadic now in the Bay Area than we were when we were traveling, because then we would stay in a place 3 or 4 weeks, and here it's kind of like it was until we landed here.
Two,
It's like
3
every
days, yeah.
every week or so, and someplace different, back and forth.
Yeah.
So
How
that's
long
good.
are you here?
So the end of January-ish, beginning of February. And I saw that Patrick also was asking, what's your next year of travel going to look like?
Yeah, where are you off to?
Yeah.
We are off to Portugal,
Yeah.
and we're gonna, so, yeah. And we've been talking about this for a really, really long time. So we're gonna spend 3 months, which is the extent of the visitors visa, the traveler's visa,
Mhm.
and really travel up and down the country and see if there's a place where we might want to set some roots down. So lots and lots of people are moving. Lisbon, we're going to be looking at Lisbon, Porto, Coimbra, and then the Algarves.
Probably not the Algarves.
But-
We'll go there, but I don't think we want
But just to explore, talk to some real estate agents, see. what's
Yeah,
going on.
originally our second year was going to be Asia. But then we just looked at each other and we said, there's this ghost of Portugal hanging over us, that everything we're looking at and trying to compare, decide whether we want to live there or not, is competing against this phantom called Portugal. And I've never been to Portugal, but for some reason I have in my head that it's going to be the place that we're going to end up. So we're just going to go and kill the ghost. It's either going to be someplace that we absolutely love and know that it's the place, or we think, yeah, it's not for us for whatever reason.
That people are saying we're gonna love it.
Yeah. So it'll be in Portugal, and then we'll probably have to go to Spain and Italy as well, since we're right there, and then we'll go to Asia, Southeast Asia, Japan, and Korea primarily. We're gonna skip China, I think.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Pat Chin just joined, huh? She's connecting.
Oh, Patrick.
Are there any places you wouldn't go back to?
Oh, good
Ooh,
question.
yeah, never been asked that.
Yes, probably.
We wouldn't go back to the same place in the Amazon
That's true.
for sure.
We might go to a different place in the Amazon, but not that same place. Where else would we not go back to? I mean, there were certain places that we were maybe only there a couple of days and it wasn't very interesting, like Ica. well,
Nazaré, Huacachina. I mean, there's some very touristy places in
Yeah,
Peru.
like Huacachina, but it was great to be there, to go once, but don't need to go back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where
A lot of
else?
places we do want to go back to.
Yeah.
That felt very unfinished.
Mhm.
Chile for sure. And then for me, Cusco, Peru. We were there for about 3 weeks and it wasn't enough, I think. There's a lot of interesting work being done there.
Can you talk about your reaction to Machu Picchu?
Yeah. Yeah, where do you start with that? I think, we left from Cusco, and the way you go is well, first of all, we took some side trips out of Cusco and went to some amazing towns that are old Inca strongholds. What was it called? Ollantaytambo. Some amazing places, and then you take a train, and the train trip is incredible. I mean, they've created these beautiful trains with sort of glass roofs and everything, so you're going through these valleys. So I would say that, what was true that we found is a lot of people ask, what was the highlight place that you went to? When you really think about it, it's sort of the process of getting there, which is the most interesting and exciting. So getting to Machu Picchu is actually even more, to me, more exciting and impressive than actually Machu Picchu. The town, Agua Calientes, that you go to Machu Picchu from is just incredible.
But it is impressive, and it looking at pictures doesn't really do it justice. And so we were lucky because post-COVID, they were still limiting the number of people they were allowing on any given day. So when we went first thing in the morning. So we left around 6:30 in the morning to get there. And when we got up there weren't very many people. So we were able to be in places where it was just us and a guide. Definitely recommend a guide, because there's just too much to take in without the stories and the history. And with the fog kind of coming in and drifting off, it was very ethereal. It was really.
Yeah, it's definitely a very
beautiful.
sacred, very magical
Yeah,
place.
yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But there's so many places like that.
Yeah.
And that's what I think we forget. I mean, Machu Picchu is the well-known one, but one place in Cusco on top of a mountain that was really 20 minutes from the city center is where we did some plant medicine work, San Pedro. And the front door of that house, that was a compound, was 50 feet from Temple of the Moon, which is an incredible sacred site that you can just go there and hang out. There's no ticket to buy, there's no fence, there's no nothing. And these ruins are everywhere. And so you can go into these caves that, there are handprints and carvings that were there 1,000, 1,500 years ago, where people did the same type of ceremonies that we're doing. And it's literally 50 feet from where you're sleeping. So these places are everywhere.
In Peru, that was what was magical about Peru, the entire country.
The entire country.
Everywhere we went, there were Inca ruins.
Well, Austin, on that note, what were the plant medicine places that you went to? What were the other two?
So the first one we went to was in Vilcabamba, Ecuador. And Vilcabamba is, it looks like a cross between Avatar and The Hobbit. I mean, it's
the nature side, the nature.
Yeah, the nature side. The town is San Pedro, and the primary medicine is San Pedro, which, if you don't know, is a cactus. And it was the area that the Inca kings used to go and recreate and rest. So these forests of, 40 foot tall San Pedro cactus have been there for hundreds and hundreds of years. So it's incredibly surreal type of place. And we stayed there for 11 days in the retreat. And we did medicine every day. It varied between San Pedro one day and then ayahuasca another day, and then you skipped. And in between all of that, there were sweat lodges, combo, which is the frog medicine. And we're also on the dieta, so we're consuming about 600 calories a day. So this is just broth, no salt, no sugar, no meat, just broth, and maybe a potato or something.
Get eggs on special days.
Eggs on special days. But yeah, you've got medicine in you the whole time.
Yeah.
And we were with 8 other people that were from all over the world.
But
And
the shamans were a married couple, and they really have built it to feel very safe and very welcoming, and so that when you leave, you feel like you're part of a family with the people you've been with that whole time. So it was a really nice a recommendation from Mark's friend.
yeah.
And so we felt, for me, because it was my first time with ayahuasca, it felt very safe for me. So that was great.
But very intense, very challenging place. It was not at all fancy or nice. It was very rural and very primitive. That was a place that didn't have hot water.
And then La Gringa.
And then La Gringa and Cusco, that was interesting. This is a woman that came from South Africa 35 years ago and ended up, finding ayahuasca and San Pedro as a way to heal her own trauma, and then decided she wanted to go that path. And the person she trained with had her drink San Pedro every day for 2 years.
Wow.
It's incredible. And she was saying, she's begging him, like, when can I stop? He goes, no, you stop when I tell you. Took 2 years. Incredible. But she's been up there for 35 years. She has 2 twin boys who are in their late 40s.
40s.
And they're spiritual alchemists as well. They're a trip. They're twins. And so we spent a lot of time with them and did San Pedro work out there. And it was very, very beautiful work. She's very dialed in. And that's a place where I would like to go and do more study there with them.
And we were there twice. So that was the 3 that we mentioned.
Yeah, that's right. But again, in the Sacred Valley in Cusco, there's so many places.
Yeah, but you have to be so careful too.
You have to be so careful.
I mean,
we've heard a lot of stories, and I think having the women shaman for me definitely made me feel safer. And
Yeah.
it was funny because we were reading a book, I think it was at the retreat in Vilcabamba,
Mhm.
when you read about
La
La
Gringa,
Gringa.
yeah.
And she had been interviewed and it was this book we were reading. So definitely, I mean, absolutely need to do research, get a personal recommendation if you can, because
Yeah, if
there
anybody
are.
has any inkling or interest in pursuing plant medicine work in that part of the world, I'd be happy to talk to you about that, because we just met and talked to a lot of people that have a tremendous amount of experience exploring that. And everywhere, Brazil, Colombia, Peru, they all have their own different types of iterations of these things. And there's all sorts of different types of work being done. And you're right, Shannon, a lot of it is very sketchy, and there's unfortunately a lot of abuse and things that happen, so.
Any other questions? I see in the comments, Patrick's got recommendations for Lisbon.
Any particular?
And also Spain. I spent a month in
Oh.
Spain as well, depending
Fabulous.
on where you go. And then when you're talking about water, since I went to Costa Rica, Colombia, and Mexico City, as well as Baja California, but like definitely need those. It's like a squeeze bottle filter, so it's meant for camping, but you can just drink the tap water out of
Oh,
the sinks that way, so you don't have to like boil or filter. But
Yeah, I ended up getting a Brita filter in Colombia. Did you go to Medellin, Pat?
yeah, Medellin and Cartagena.
Yeah, so Medellin was interesting because I was on my own for 10 days in Medellin, and Laurel went to Mexico, and yeah, it's incredible. I met all these guys through a men's group, and a lot of them were from the Bay Area. That's where we did ice bath work. So we did Wim Hof work, we did breath work, we did mushrooms out there. Incredible experience, but there's a very vibrant digital nomad community in Medellin.
Yep. It's one of the top destinations. Mexico City as well now.
Mexico City too, but boy, Medellin is definitely on a different level depending on what you're looking for. There is everything there for a young man to get in trouble with. So
Steve has a question.
yeah, Steen, what's
Particular insights from the plant experiences?
Yeah, and I know that can probably get a little personal, but just if there's any sort of broad brushstrokes about something that, hey, this is what I really took away from this, or why I'd want to go back. It just sounds like something you all connected with and did repeatedly. So, yeah.
So, I mean, for any of you that don't know, I've been doing a lot of plant medicine work prior to going on this trip, including guiding as well. But ayahuasca is not something I'd had a lot of experience with. I had some, and San Pedro I had no experience with. San Pedro is probably one of my new favorite medicines out there. It's very, very different. It's similar to MDMA in a certain way. Very grounding. We did it in the daytime primarily, but we also did some at night. Very, very, very powerful, very profound medicine.
Became your favorite.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting because the Spanish came when the conquistadors came and discovered that there were all these plant medicine rituals that the local people were enjoying and had been enjoying for hundreds of years. They called it, the Spanish are the ones that called it San Pedro, and San Pedro means Saint Patrick, and Saint Peter. And if you know anything about your Catholic history, Saint Peter is the saint that holds the keys to heaven. So even the Spanish recognized that this was a really special plant, and it is. It's magical. As to the insights, yeah, that's an intense conversation. I think day 9 of the 11 days. I think day 9, I basically cried 36 hours straight. It's a culmination of just medicine going through you all the time, and then being witnessed and also witnessing all these other people like yourselves that come in with egos very, very guarded, very defensive, very protected. And, I'm pretty open, have done a lot of plant medicine work, but there are levels to these things, right? And you start plunging into levels of who you are, who you think you are. And it's tough. You get to a certain age, our age, where What's important is wanting to be authentic, you know? And so then when you want to be authentic, then you have to say, well, who am I? And then when you really delve into who am I, a lot of times you discover things you don't really like. And, you know, the shaman would call it, he says, you are going to be entering during this journey, the house of mirrors. So you might do plant medicine work, ayahuasca for a day or two, and, you know, the mirrors come up and you see some shit and then you go home. But by day 7, day 8, day 9, you can't dodge anymore. You can't hide. You can't run anymore. And you're forced to confront some things that are very, very tough. And you just have to work through it. It's like that picture I have. The only way out is in, and the only way out is through. You just have to go through it. And the thing is you're watching all these other people go through it too, their own thing. So for example, with San Pedro, you sit in a circle around a fire in a maloca, and these sessions would take 10 hours. And there's a skin of a jaguar right in front of the fire. And the shaman would just point to you and say, Steen, go to the skin. And you'd sit on the skin in front of the fire, and everyone's around you, and you're rolling on this medicine. And then he just starts to ask you questions. And you could be there for an hour, or you could be there for 2 hours. And yeah, these layers come off. Don't know what else to say other than that. But I, you know, it's one of those things. I heard someone describe jujitsu in a way. They said jujitsu is a hobby, is an activity for people that like to do things that they're going to suck in, right? Because when you start in jiu-jitsu, you go in and you get tapped by people very much smaller than you 35 times in a class, and 90% of people go, oh, I don't want to ever do this again. This is horrible for my ego and for my self-esteem and everything. I don't want to do it. It was painful. It sucked. But then there's certain people that want to go back. And plant medicine is very similar. Definitely want to go back. Yeah.
Laurel, can I ask you if you want to share a little bit of your experiences?
Sure. So for me, it was the first time with ayahuasca and the first time with San Pedro as well. And the first time they gave us the ayahuasca, they gave us a mild dose. So it was a very gentle, I guess, a gentle introduction to it, which I was very thankful for. They did offer, do you want to have a second dose? And I said no. And so with the second one, it definitely then brought me up to where you just leave your body, and you're, for me, traveling into a different world, noises, visuals. Kind of with the second time, it was kind of so overwhelming that I didn't try to process it or analyze it at the time. I was like, I can't, I just gonna lay back and let it go. And with the San Pedro, it definitely, as Mark mentioned, it's a heart opener. So when I, for example, when I went to the skin to start talking, I didn't know what I was gonna start to say, but I immediately started crying, and everybody started crying. Everybody was crying, and just really opened you up. He talked a lot about loving and respecting your ancestors and your parents. Mm-hmm. And it was definitely a theme that went throughout our stay there. And that one really, I guess, really touched me. And I feel like I'm taking that with me from that experience.
Right?
Yeah. The gratitude for everything we've been through, for everything our parents have been through, which brought us all to this place. And yeah, it was very, very profound for me, very deep.
Thank you both.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, really, this very strong sense of gratitude was the theme throughout all of the work. Is that you have a responsibility to be happy, be kind.
It's a weird time to transition, but we're
Yeah.
running out
Yeah.
of time.
Yeah. So I don't think we have to put them in breakout rooms. So what do you
Okay.
think? It's just not.
That's true. We were going to do breakout rooms if there were more people.
Yeah, so it just would love to hear from you guys, to talk to each other, and what we found. I mean, this came up. Go ahead, Kathy.
Well, I just wonder if you have any recipes for guinea pigs.
He does. He does.
Yeah, so guinea pigs are people. So they're called cuy in Ecuador, and they're a dish that the people that we stayed with raised guinea pigs. And towards the end of our trip, we slaughtered a few guinea pigs, which was a weird experience for me because I didn't do it right, and so. But eventually learned how to slit their throats and then skin them and do all of that. So I disemboweled them, did all that, and then we had kind of a contest as he cooked them the traditional Ecuadorian way, and then I did them an Asian way. So I got soy sauce and sugar and sesame oil and these other things, and I made an Asian style marinade, and we grilled them, and they were both good, right?
They were both good.
So yes, we have recipes for cuy.
It's like rabbit.
And some smart restaurant is going to figure out that they can differentiate by offering cuy in this country because it's good. And it would be very unique and different. I don't know why it's not offered.
Oh, no.
I really don't. It's good. It's just
So anyway, so your question for people.
Yeah. So think of a place that you'd like to go back to, or a place you'd like to go that's new. And I would just love to hear from all of you. What's your reservation? What's standing in your way, if anything? And if there's nothing standing in your way, tell us where you want to go and when you're going to do it and how you're going to do it.
No one.
I think for me, it's the uncomfortable thing that you pointed out earlier. Like, I'm older now. It's been a long time since I traveled overseas, and I'm so afraid of not having a comfortable bed, of not having a fan, of not having,
Oh, sorry, you got a little stuck there. You want to try it again, Holly?
Oh, really? Oh, it's my
That's
internet
right.
probably.
Yeah.
I'll put it in the chat.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I hear you. And a lot of people say that just being uncomfortable. I guess that's kind of one of the things we said is embrace the discomfort.
This is language.
Language, yeah. I saw a little thing on forgot where I saw it, but it said what you want to do in 2023. It was like a chart. And then an arrow pointed to just do it. And another arrow pointed to, but I'm scared. And then it pointed to another arrow that said, do it scared. And I think it's really good advice. Just be okay with being scared. It's okay.
Maybe to add on to Holly's question too, I feel a little similar in that, like you guys did a lot of Airbnbs and you did some schools and some community places, but as a single person, should I travel alone? How would you say, if I were to go just get an Airbnb by myself in some of these places, is that generally a comfortable thing, a safe thing that we'll do, or would there be a thought that, hey, maybe I should seek out more community-based places to stay to, like, maybe, what's your thought around that?
So for my thought is wherever we did the research and had the Airbnb, they were in safe neighborhoods. And I would not be concerned if I was there by myself. Because we picked places that were kind of close to the center and like I said, safe neighborhoods and trusted Airbnbs, right? Where they've got lots of reviews and 5 stars. But I do think hostels, which I probably didn't do very much before I met Mark, are also a way to go because there are some really nice hostels that you can have your own room, you can have your own bathroom, and then you have the communal kitchen. And then in the dining rooms, people start talking to one another and they give you recommendations for going to different places.
You'll never be alone if you choose.
And they'll go with you and you can organize outings. But once again, you want to pick a good hostel with good reviews and in safe neighborhoods.
And Workaway too. Workaway.info. I mean, that's where we worked in Pichalimu, where we were changing beds and cleaning toilets and stuff for 2 weeks. there are so many different workaways out there. And I would say 70% of the people, the other volunteers we met were single women that were traveling alone.
A lot of single women. Yeah.
And they're there for 2 weeks, a month, and they've done multiple workaways all over the world. And you could do a workaway where you're working at an elephant sanctuary in Thailand, or you're helping dogs in Peru.
And there's a lot of couples with young children who say, come stay in our house and do a culture exchange, do a language exchange. We'll teach you Spanish. You help teach our children English. And then we give you free room and board, and then they'll give you, a minimum requirement, 2 weeks or 1 month to stay there. But that's another thing that especially if you were going to a new place and you wanted to get a little bit more immersion of the language before going out on your own, you could do that for a couple of weeks and then head out on your own in an Airbnb or a hostel.
Yeah, we're definitely excited to do more workaways. We'd love to work in a vineyard, like at a winery in Italy or Spain, and those type of opportunities are there. So now that we've been reviewed and we're legit now, we can go out and try to apply for these things.
Yes, I have 5 stars. Gabby said, were we ever concerned for our safety? I guess only in the Amazon, and it wasn't safety like we were afraid someone was going to murder us. It was just a matter of running out of gas and running so that we didn't have any Wi-Fi and people might not be able to find us forever. So that was it. But I'm trying to think if we ever did. We, like I said, we did research. We did our research in what neighborhoods we stayed in. So for example, Mexico City is huge. And our favorite neighborhoods are La Roma Norte and Condesa. But we also know that there are neighborhoods you shouldn't travel to.
I mean, this is not hyperbole at all. I feel much less safe here in San Francisco, the Bay Area, than I ever felt anywhere while we were traveling. And it's not because we're blissfully ignorant. I mean, I'm serious. It's just, and we're obviously not trying to buy cocaine in bad neighborhoods in Medellin, right? So that's not where we're going. I'm not looking for hookers, and stuff. So thank God. Well, just, but if you're just being reasonably intelligent and you're not trying to get into trouble, you're really quite safe. Downtown Quito, at night, you don't have any business walking around there.
But that's what everybody told us when we were going to school. And so we didn't, we avoided when they said, here's one area you don't go to and here's one area you don't go to. And we didn't at night.
No, that's not to say that bad things don't happen. We met people that got robbed and things happened to them.
That's true. We had those kids, they had their backpacks stolen.
Right.
But that's the other thing too. And I think actually growing up in the Bay Area, we're actually ultra what is it?
Careful.
Example, we won't leave anything in our car. We always know where our things are.
Yeah.
We hold on to our things. We're very careful with our stuff because that's how I've grown up. So that's actually maybe.
Yeah, a lot of travelers are just, they're not very street smart that way. So, and the other thing too is the things when we did hear about bad things happening to people, I guess the phrase "nothing good happens at an ATM at 2 a.m" is one of the things that is just universally true. So if you're intoxicated at an ATM at 2 a.m. in any country in the world, probably not the safest move for you.
Patrick mentioned Duro Valley, which is definitely on our list.
Oh yeah, for sure. Near Porto, right? Yeah.
Yeah. There was a small vineyard where they still stomp on the grapes. And I think their harvest season is around fall time, like September, October, though.
Yeah. So Pat, let's have an offline conversation if you have time. I'd love to pick your brain about Portugal. There's so many digital nomads there, and the guys that I work with just absolutely love.
Oh yeah, all the crypto guys are flocking there for a reason.
Haven for crypto there, and there's a lot of interesting plant work being done out there as well. So yeah.
Cool. We've got 2 minutes.
Yeah. Anything else? Janelle, how are you? I didn't want you to think we didn't see you there.
No, I got on late. No worries. I'm great.
Ernie had this weird background that you were being ghosted in and out.
I was.
I wasn't sure you were real. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm great. We're sheltering from our house with no power and talking about travels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where do you guys want to go?
To Indonesia.
Oh, very cool.
You've been before?
No. So the first time I ever left the country, I went to Thailand, and I haven't been in Southeast Asia since. So it's been 22 years.
Wow. What's calling you to Indonesia?
Work.
All right, we're gonna have to talk later.
We'll catch up.
So you're just gonna go to Jakarta, or you're gonna go to Bali as well?
Yeah, the plan is to go to Jakarta and then Bali after that.
Yeah,
Cool.
Bali's magnificent. I've never been to Jakarta or Jakarta, but it's on the list. Yeah. Yeah. Bill Lee, Laurel Lee's brother.
Hey, Bill.
All right, fine.
Yeah, he's learning something. Barton.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Oh, you're there, Bill? Okay.
Yeah.
Great. All right. Well, we want to be respectful of everyone's time. This has been an hour. Yeah, if you want to continue a conversation and talk about travel a little more, Laurel's going to send out a link and you can schedule time with me and frankly us, right? If we can both do it, we'll be happy to do that. It'd be fun.
Yeah, we have a list of resources of things that we mentioned, like Italki and Workaway and the links. And so we'll send that out along with the recording.
Yeah, Italki is a great resource. It's really terrific. Basically, Italki in a nutshell is pick any country you want, any language basically, and you can find somebody in that country and you can schedule 30 minutes or an hour and they'll teach you. And in Peru, it's $6 an hour to have someone teach you Spanish online at your convenience anytime. And so we're going to do that for Japanese and probably Korean and Thai. Portuguese is a little tough because most of the Portuguese is Brazilian Portuguese and it's very different, we found out. So, but definitely for Asia, we plan to do that because it's just such a low bar to do. I mean, you spend a few hours with a local teaching you some things and it just helps a lot.
Super.
Italki's great. Workaway is great. Yeah, Laurel will send out a list of resources.
Cool.
Yeah.
I will. So thank you, everybody, for showing up. So lovely to see you. Wishing everybody a safe and happy 2023 with as much travel as you guys want.
Yeah.
Likewise. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you guys. Well done. Well done.
Well done. Yes.
Bye, Laurel. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.